Hello, I'm Scotty. Thanks for visiting my channel. I will teach you how to repair mechanical clocks. Last weekend we went up to the Mantle Antique and Collectables Fair, an annual event only interrupted during the COVID years. Malden is about 1.25 hours drive from where we live. It was a nice warm day, 26 degrees with a cooling breeze while we were there, but the temperature climbed to 35 degrees later on in the day. Luckily we had left by then. This is a quick view of the fair. There are about 100 stalls selling a wide range of items: vintage glassware, old bottles, old hand tools, kitchenalia and old rusty farm machinery parts. This is one of the lovely old eucalypt trees that surround the football field where the annual fair is held. We went up to the Malden Antique and Collectables Fair last weekend, though it's a bit of a misnomer. I think I was actually the oldest thing there, and I'm not quite antique yet, so I'm not quite 100. But anyway, and this is something that we picked up there, which is very unusual in Australia. You can see there the crossed arrows. It's H.A.C, Hamburg America Clock Company. It's most unusual to find clocks of that brand in Australia. However, I found one, so I'm pretty keen to have a look at it. We'll take the hands off first. There's a bent piece of wire in here. Probably had a tapered pin at some stage that's been lost, but I'll pull this out, keeping an eye on the hands. It is a bit on the tight side. Now see if we can pull it through. That's got him. Now we'll remove the hands very carefully. Fingernails underneath. That is pretty tight. I'll put a hand puller on that. I've got a couple of them here, so we'll have a look and see which one fits. I think that is not quite. No, not quite. Right, so it looks like 2 screwdrivers to lift them up. Being very careful not to do any damage. We don't want to slip, and mark the clock face. Very carefully rock them backwards and forwards. I don't think that's made much difference at all. That is seriously tight on there. I can't get under that. I think in actual fact that might be a washer that's sitting on there. Ah, that's the other piece that's sitting on top of it. That's also got an extremely bodgy soldering job on that. We'll clean that up before we put it back. If you find this video helpful, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. Alright, we're finally getting somewhere. Now we'll take the hour hand off. Thumb and fingernail under it carefully. There we go. Alright, now we can turn the case over. Open the back door, and there's the movement. But what we'll do first, we'll get a little shifting spanner and we'll take the gong out. A bit on the rusty side, but that's cracked it. Now, alright, there's the gong. Now hopefully we can have a look and see how we take the movement out. Alright, there's some nuts and bolts down there we'll have to get into to remove, and that is going to be very hard to do online. Well, that was a bit of fun. I had to use these long needle nose pliers to get down into the base of the clock to undo the nuts on it. Then once the nuts were taken off, there was one of these bars either side that held it in place, and I've never seen one of these clocks in the flesh before, so it was the first time I've seen one. And it turns out that the movement is attached to the clock face here. So what we have to do is remove the clock face and the movement in one piece. And the movement comes out through the front of the case with the face attached. Most interesting. Alright, I'll put that aside for the moment. Looks like an oak case to me. It's not in too bad a condition. There's a piece of veneer missing there and a little bit down there and a tiny bit on that corner. But it's rough up here. They could do with a sanding down and a polish. And I think that'll probably come up pretty well. There's quite nice grain in around there. And you'll notice there's some carved beading running along the bottom down here, all the way along there. And now here we have our movement, which is attached to the face plate down here with 4 tapered pins. 1, 2, 3. There's the 4th one. They're in shocking condition. You can see how bent they are and they've just been chomped off. So we'll sort that out before we put it back together again. There's an interesting looking little fly, the shape of a cross. Isn't that interesting? See what we've got here. The escape wheel's turning. We arrived at Malden half an hour after the fair opened, and this clock was on the first stand that we saw, and went and had a talk to the guy, and he said yes, it was all there, all the bits and pieces were there. And I had a look in the back of the case, and there wasn't a winding key or a pendulum bob. And the guy said, oh yes, there is. There certainly was on there. And he came and had a look, and we discovered that one of the people before me who looked at it had pinched the pendulum bob. The hammer's working all right. See it clicking away there? I should have counted those. I'll just check and see. That's 10, 11, 12, 13. Up, way over the limit. The warning wheel, the pin on the warning wheel, is not being arrested. I'd say that lever there. You can see the fly stop turning when I press down on that. There's a cam on that. There's no pin on the warning wheel. There's a cam on it. And I'd say that lever there falls down into one of those holes on the cam which stops it. Alright, well there it is. That'll be really interesting to have a look at that. There's an attractive looking spring if I ever saw one. How cool's that? Dear oh dear. That'll have to be replaced. That's atrocious. Alright, the rest of it seems to be all there. Right, we'll take that to pieces and have a look and see how that works.